Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. And yesterday was a big movie news day for Interstellar. Not only did they debut a very revealing new trailer, which I'll review later today, or it might already be up. Be sure to head over to the original Beyond the Trailer channel to look for that. But they announced that the film will be coming out not just 2 days early, but only in film, only projected in film instead of a digital screening. And it's going to play in 240 theaters across the country in that manner. Now, we'll talk about the more altruistic aspects of this early release in a moment, which will be the bulk of the story. But I do want to point out that I think that while this is a nice thing to do by Christopher Nolan to promote film and try and keep it around, although I don't know if it's necessary, which we'll also discuss, but I do feel in some part this is an effort on behalf of Paramount and Warner Brothers to get out ahead of Big Hero 6. I think this is one of the I guess more equal matchups of the year, both coming out the first weekend, I believe, of November. I think November 7th. And I think that they supposedly target different demographics, but I think as we get closer to the date, I think that perhaps Warner Brothers and Paramount really behind the film instead of just one studio are understanding that, you know what, maybe Big Hero 6 might be more of a problem than we anticipated. So I really feel it's to get partially the word out early that this is a movie you need to see. And we all hope that it is a movie we need to see. Although the weekend's pretty long, you do have 3 evenings to go. I believe people will probably see both. But there will be only one winner. Only one movie can win the box office. I don't think anybody's ever tied. That would be pretty interesting now, but we'll see. So that's probably, I think, the mercenary side of things. Now back over to the altruistic. I think it's wonderful that Christopher Nolan wants to preserve film. And he's someone who can do it because this is such a hot pre-release that a number of movie theaters across the country are bringing in film projectors so they can participate. For instance, TCL's Chinese Theater in Los Angeles. They don't have the capability to screen a movie in film, but they're going to make sure they have it so they can air Interstellar or run it 2 days early. And so that's wonderful. And apparently J.J. Abrams is also being really behind keeping film around. He's done a lot to try and keep Kodak open. It's almost like the auto industry, too big to fail. And J.J. Abrams and Christopher Nolan feel that Kodak is too big to fail. I don't agree, but we'll get to that in a moment. So I'm also wondering, though, if J.J. Abrams' name is being announced here so much, if he'll try to maybe do the same kind of thing with Star Wars. We'll get a pre-release on film, or re-release, or pre-release, I guess is the right term. So I'm wondering if that'll happen with J.J. Abrams. Although I also think it's kind of interesting that both of these movies, Interstellar and Star Wars Episode 7, while I think they both have a really respectable amount of practical effects, they're also very heavily CGI at the same time. So to have these movies being like, yes, preserve film, but then I'm like, but so much of this has gone through a digital processor. I just think, and you've just gone back to film. And I think it's interesting. Of course, they shot on film, and that makes a big difference. Now, I said, is this necessary? I don't think that it is. I think that at the beginning of the digital revolution in filmmaking, it was. You would look at digital footage and so go, it doesn't look as beautiful as film. But that's not the case anymore. I think the digital cameras have progressed to the point where it looks just as good. For instance, if you watch The Knick, please watch The Knick. I love it so much. It's already been greenlit for a 2nd season, but I really want it to do well. It's a wonderful show. Steven Soderbergh is a major force behind it, and he's directing the whole 1st season, and he shoots it as well. And he shoots it on a Sony Red camera. If you watch that show, it has every bit of the beauty and the warmth and everything that you want to see in filmic cinematography with a digital camera. So I really feel that, it's really more like an antiquated feel of being like, oh, a film projector, and oh, look, it's an actual film, I can hold it. There's not something so romantic about popping in a DVD. But I think that in terms of visual quality, it's not necessary. And I don't understand why you would want to do this to a film's budget. Shooting on film is ridiculously expensive. As I remember, from my experience in film school, it's prohibitively expensive. And I just think that it's not fair to any filmmaker at any level. Budgets are a big deal now, as we see in Hollywood in the headlines, even for your big blockbusters, trying to find ways to, get the most bang for your buck. Literally sometimes with the blockbusters. And I think that, you need you need to cut costs where you can, and I think spending money on actual film is an unnecessary cost because, as I said, there's no change in the end product. The end product is achievable with a digital camera. So I'm curious to what you guys think. Are you behind the crusade for film? Do you think Christopher Nolan is doing a worthy cause? Or, do you think that digital is doing a great job? It's progressed to the point where this is a mood issue. And then also, if you were making a movie, which way would you go? Would you go film or would you go digital? And before you just jump to the film camp, remember your budget and how much money it's going to cost you to shoot on film. It's more to load. You can shoot less. It's harder, to get the right, exposure. You need to then process it, then you have to edit it, and then you have to go back. There's a whole bunch of different steps to going from film to your finished product. It's very complicated. So that's one of the reasons I think that it died out so quickly. All right, so that's the first story of the day. The second story is about Angry Birds. Now, of course, that's one of the most popular games in the world. It's globally a global sensation, and I think very cleverly, the movie's been in the works for a while now, but very cleverly the game said if you'd like to know the cast, you have to play to unlock them. And I thought that was brilliant because it just makes more gameplay and bigger numbers for them to recite when they're promoting the movie. So you had to have 1 billion birds slung, as the game is so famous for doing. And when 1 billion birds were slung by everybody in the world, they unlocked the cast. And so let's talk about the cast because people unlocked it pretty quickly, and I think that's awesome. So you've got Jason Sudeikis, Josh Gad, Danny McBride, Bill Hader. Boy, Josh Gad gets so much work now. It's really amazing what Frozen has done for his career. And no one else is, interestingly. Jennifer Lee, I think, has gotten a lot out of it. But Idina Menzel, Kristen Bell, and Jonathan Groff are Elsa, Anna, and Kristoff. Nothing. But anyway, so Danny McBride, Bill Hader, Maya Rudolph, and Peter Dinklage. I think that sounds like a fun cast. I'm really curious to see how this franchise does, and I think if I were Blue Sky with my Rio franchise, I don't know if they plan to revisit Rio for a third time, but I'd be like, uh-oh, I think that this could be problematic as we have a rival animated bird franchise. Who would ever think that could happen? Although this happens quite a bit in animation circles. So I'm curious if you guys want to see an Angry Birds movie, and if you think applying some kind of story to this game will be effective. And also, is an all-star voice cast still something that gets you excited, considering they're the norm for every animated movie at this point? I mean, Jason Sudeikis did a voice at Epic. He was quite good, from Blue Sky Studios, by the way, and that movie didn't do well at the box office at all. So I'm just curious what you guys think of the cast and the potential for the game to become, a narrative film. All right, so we're going to go from Angry Birds to illegal turtles. This is a favorite story of mine. I've been waiting for a time that I could share it, and I thought it matched up so well with Angry Birds. So basically, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, popular film, not as big as something like Guardians of the Galaxy or Frozen, but popular, done very well for itself. They have a sequel in the works, and apparently people are enjoying it, particularly kids. And it turns out that in Canada, for some reason in particular, they love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And a lot of kids apparently think that if they get 4 turtles, they'll turn into ninjas. So that has created quite the demand, and the supply has become illegal. And I think there's a 20% uptick for turtles in terms of demand. And so to meet that demand, as I said, people have gone to illegal lengths to do it. And I think there's a big incentive because they say a $25 turtle here in the US sells for $600 in Canada. And here's the fun part. They actually stopped a guy trying to go into Canada from the United States who had 51 turtles strapped to his body. I think that's hilarious. Can you imagine being the customs agent being like, "You look a little lumpy there, sir," and then actually being like, "I can't believe you strapped all these turtles to yourself." And like, where did they go? And I'd hate to be the turtle in certain places, if you know what I mean. All right, so that's the third story of the day. Has anyone bought a turtle? Do you know anyone who bought a turtle for watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? I'm curious to know. And how much did they pay for it? All right, so let's go on to the viewer question. This is from Batman Beast Mode, a.k.a. David from Connecticut. And he says, "Hey Grace, such a fan of both channels and trust your instincts when it comes to movies. Both channels. Which one don't you watch, David?" I'm guessing BTT Disney. I hope everybody checks out all 3 channels that I'm doing here with Beyond the Trailer. So David continues saying, "I hope you answer my question for Morning Movie News." I am. My question is, why aren't there more gay movies in in the mainstream or in theaters. The only movie that came out in the theater was really just Brokeback Mountain. And why do all gay movies go straight to DVD, or do you buy them through the internet? I just feel like this is being ignored, unless I'm wrong. Thanks for your time reading this and answering it. Sorry if my grammar is off and it's hard to understand. No, I totally understand, David. I think this is, certainly a demographic. We talk about equal representation in film all the time, and I think the gay community definitely counts. And I think you're going to see that. Roland Emmerich had a big thing where he wanted to, in the next Independence Day, have a gay character who just happened to be gay. It didn't define his character. He wasn't there for, comedic purposes. He just was going to help save the day, be part of the team that saves the day. And just when he went home to his partner. And I think that would have been very commendable. Now, I think Roland Emmerich, Will Smith doesn't want to return for the next Independence Day, and then after Roland Emmerich kind of got sucked into the Bryan Singer scandal, maybe nobody really wants to go there right now. To Roland Emmerich, period. Forget his idea for trying to incorporate this kind of character. But I do think that change is happening. For instance, I would tell you, David, to go check out a movie called The Skeleton Twins. I reviewed it recently. It stars Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig from SNL, and Bill Hader plays a gay man. And, they follow some of the romantic entanglements that his character has to deal with, but he's very much seen as a person first, and being gay is just a part of his character, just as being straight would be part of any other character, as Kristen Wiig is in the film. They're brother and sister. And I thought that his character was wonderfully well realized. It wasn't a caricature, and it was very organic, and as I said, he was a person first. So I thought that was a great step forward. And I think we'll eventually get there. Again, I think it's important, for filmmakers, people in Hollywood making movies who are gay to try and make this happen, like Roland Emmerich wanted to do, and I think that's what's going to affect the change. But I think this always happens. I think when things start out, they become very, insulated, like, for instance, the blaxploitation films. Now look how black characters have progressed to film today. I think it's like it's the highest point it's ever been, and I think they're going to have a breakthrough very soon, if not already. I think very exciting things are happening in Hollywood in that regard. Women as well. A lot of chick flicks for so long. There's a certain only type of chick flick movie. That's all we had for a long time. But now, look how it's evolved to go beyond that, and TV has been a big place to push that. So I think you're seeing more and more stuff. You saw Will and Grace, there's Looking on HBO. I think these shows were the first steps in something that will happen further down the line. But the big step is going to have to be having that not define a character, not having them for comedic purposes, and just have them, it's just as a part of who they are, and that's not how you interact with them. And I think, the Skeleton Twins is a good step in that direction. So, David, I think that it eventually will happen. If you're ever considering a career in any kind of entertainment, you could be a force for change as well. In novels, comic books, I think having the characters have that aspect to them, like for instance the Runaways and also Kieran Gillen in Young Avengers, although I think Young Avengers was very obvious and really focused on the sexuality of their characters. They put it front and center instead of putting it in the background. That's just part of who the character is. I think Runaways did a little bit of a better job with that. But success is the only language that Hollywood really listens to, so if we can get some characters depicted this way, Hollywood will certainly jump on board. So that's my answer to your question, Dave. Thank you so much for asking. Thank you everybody for tuning in today. Please write down below what you think of today's top 3 stories, the viewer question, anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.